Welcome back. I'm Gila Ross, author of Living Beautifully and host of the Power Up podcast, where we share short, relatable ideas to impact and upgrade your everyday life. I'm excited about today's class. Imagine someone asked you, what exactly makes you Jewish? What would you say?
I was born Jewish.
I'm going to tell you an interesting story. There was a couple that he was Jewish, she wasn't Jewish. And at some point in their life, they started becoming more involved and interested in Judaism. Yeah. And to the point where they started to become much more observant. Both of them, right? He was and she was as well. It came to a point where she was like, I'm keeping a lot of the laws. I'm keeping all the laws as my husband is. I'm observant of Jewish law. But I don't see why I should go through the formal process of conversion. Basically, what's the difference between me and him? What's the difference? How would you explain that?
There's a lot of education that goes into conversion, so she's missing out on that.
But she was doing the education anyway. If you're telling me, for example, keep this mitzvah, like that's a tangible difference. But what's going to change from me, keeping the mitzvahs now, going into the mikvah and coming out and keeping them? So it's a spiritual thing. And what's the difference?
You're actually, once you convert, you're a part of the Jewish people. Until then, she's not really part of us.
Neshama's Jewish.
Either we're born Jewish or we convert to Judaism. Usually people come by things one of two ways. Either they're born into it, or they have to do certain things to become part of it, right? So for example, a prince becomes a prince because he was born into royal family. You can't decide you want to become a prince. It doesn't work like that. Or, for example, if I want to be a doctor, I go through a whole process of becoming a doctor. What's fascinating about Judaism is that you could do both. If you say that, like, it's a religion, what about someone who's born Jewish and does nothing Jewish their entire life?
Yep.
Right, so it can't just be a religion. And if you say it's an ethnicity, a race, well, how can I decide to become Jewish? Like I can't decide to become African American, for example. So how can I decide? So what is it
about the neshama that is like?
It's interesting because mikveh is a fascinating topic, and in essence, what it is it's a place of transformation, and it's related to when a fetus is in the womb. It's surrounded by water, so we go in like there's very like deep spiritual ideas of it being like a rebirth, and there is that place of transformation where, and you see it throughout all the different laws of mikveh, is that something is happening that beforehand the person is not Jewish. They go into the mikveh, something is happening, and then they become Jewish. And the question really is like, what is that thing? You say it's a Jewish soul. Let's just say you met someone who's never met a Jew before, and they tell you, what's the Jewish soul? What would you say?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, how do you describe it? You can't.
Well, that's my question.
We don't know.
My question.
Is it a connection?
It's a special connection, a direct connection.
Connection to what?
To God.
So what about the Jew that's not connected to God at all?
They are still connected, even though they don't realize it. But they do have that Har Neshama within them. They just haven't.
They don't act. That's a good.
Interesting. We're going to explore it a little bit.
I think that everybody that I know that's converted is a better Jew than the Jews that were born Jew. If you look at the people, so I think being born is luck, but growing into it, however you get there, is the privilege and the work that it takes to have a connection with God.
And I want to just add on what you say. When we lived in the UK, I had a friend who was not Jewish, and she was married to someone Jewish, and she never actually completed her conversion process. She would turn around to me and say, "Kids went to the Jewish school. I do more than the average." Like her kids would get made fun of because they were so religious. And here she was doing all these things, and yet still somehow not Jewish.
But something, their essence is different.
What is that something? Should we try and understand? Okay, this couple, the one that I started off talking about, so they came to a rabbi. The wife said, look, I do exactly the same as my husband. I don't see what going to the mikveh accomplishes. Like, what, we're doing exactly the same thing. We're both keeping Shabbat, we're both keeping kosher. What is it? So he gave her an analogy. And he said, have you ever been on a flight? She's like, yeah, sure. You know, you're flying from New York to Rome. Do you know that there's someone else on that flight who's also flying from New York to Rome and who's not paying for the flight? Who's that person? Flight attendant. If you're an outsider looking at it, the flight attendant and the passenger are both doing the same thing. I don't know if you've ever seen like the flight attendants go through security and they have their little things and they get on the plane and they have their seats and this person has their seat. But there's a massive difference between them. What's the difference?
One's working and one's there by choice.
Also, I think what's the difference when they get to Rome?
Well, one gets off and does whatever they want, and the other one maybe gets a rest period, but then they have to get on their next flight.
So for the passenger, the flight is just the means to get to a destination. That's it. So they put up with the inconveniences of flying. So to get to the destination, right? For the flight attendant, the journey is kind of the destination, right? Flight is what it's about. Right? They'll go to a hotel, they'll sleep, but then they'll go back on the flight. Right? That's what it's about. What he was saying is that the difference between what is a Jew, right? What makes us Jewish goes all the way back to Yaakov and Esav, right? Jacob and Esau. And it's the difference between Jacob and Esau. What's the difference between them? So let's read number 2, please.
And Rivka, Yitzchak's wife, conceived, and the children struggled within her. And she said, if so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Hashem. And Hashem said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples will be separated from your insides, and 1 people will dominate the other, and the elder will serve the younger.
Hold on just a second. Thank you so much. So what's going on is Rivka is pregnant, and no ultrasounds in those days. She doesn't know that she's having twins. So what's happening is that the kids are struggling within her. Let's find out what the children struggled within her means.
And this children struggled within her. Obviously, this verse screams, interpret me, for it conceals what the struggle was about. Our rabbis taught when she would pass by the doors of Shem and Eber, Yaakov struggled to come out. But when she would pass by the door of idol worship, Esav struggled to come forth. Alternatively, they struggled with each other over the inheritance of the 2 worlds.
Okay, so let's try and pull this apart and try and understand what's going on. So Rivka's pregnant and she has a very strange experience. Every time she walks past the yeshiva of Shem Ve'ever, the place where they study Torah, she feels like there's, this baby has a pull to go. And then she would walk past a place of idol worship and she would feel like the baby has a pull to go there as well. So it's like weird. What's going on? She didn't know she was having twins. So she goes to ask, what's going on? And they were prophets at that time. So they told her, you're not pregnant with one baby, you're pregnant with twins. And the 2 children that you're having are going to grow up to be 2 different people. And those 2 people are going to be fundamentally at odds with each other. What we're going to see through this is that, like, generally the stories of Bereshit, they're a model for what happens later on in history, and also a model for what we sometimes experience internally. So we're going to see that it starts with Yaakov and Esav, but then it continues on with Jews and non-Jews, and also we'll see how it applies to us as well. What's the struggle between Jews and non-Jews? I'm not talking about anti-Semitism.
The essential difference.
Like, for example, it says, the last line, it says, they struggled with each other over the inheritance of the 2 worlds. So we have a clue here.
Belief systems are completely different.
So what are the belief systems that are different?
You see some very spiritual non-Jews and some very spiritual Jews. And they all,
I'm not saying they're not spiritual, not connected, but they're connected in a different street.
They have a different role in the world.
Well, the question is what makes us
What's
different?
the struggle between
Yeah, what's
Yaakov and
the struggle?
Esau? So we've got a clue there. The struggle of the two worlds. What are the two worlds that this is referring to?
Idolatry.
The world to come is one of them.
Yeah, the present world and the world to come. So Judaism teaches us that God created two worlds, this world and the world to come.
Excuse me.
Does anyone know why did God have to create two different worlds? It's because the two worlds are hardwired differently, completely differently. This world is the world of becoming, the world of action, achievement, accomplishment. And the next world is the world of being. Now, has anyone here ever worked really hard for a project? How does it feel to finish your master's?
Amazing.
Amazing. How long has it been since you finished it?
Like a couple days.
Okay.
Wow.
How do you think it's going to feel in 6 months when you finish the master's?
It'll be like, I have masters, like, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like you have this amazing, amazing feeling and it kind of goes down. Why does it go down? What would happen if it never went down?
Then you wouldn't be able to move on to your next thing.
You would not be motivated to do the next thing. You would kind of be like, wow, this is amazing. Right now, are you motivated to take a PhD, for example?
No.
Exactly. But you never know. In 6 years, you might be. What happens is the pattern is we work, we achieve, it's amazing, and then it's like, okay, what's next? And it's that feeling of like, wow, this is amazing, I've achieved this, is kind of like a clue of what the world to come is going to be like. But that kind of disappears because this is the world of becoming. So God gives motivation. We know how amazing it's going to feel. A lot of times what motivates us is, I know it's going to be amazing when I'm done, right? I know I'm going to feel amazing. But then it goes, right? So these two worlds are hardwired differently. This is the world of becoming, and the world to come is the world of being. Now, yeah.
Is that like the difference between the 6 days and Shabbos?
Yes. Shabbos is called a taste of the world to come. If we have time, we can talk about it later, but beautiful point. So what does it mean that Yaakov and Esav were fighting over the inheritance of the two worlds? Yaakov and Esav had a fundamental difference, and we're going to see this in the text when we go through it. What was their difference is that Yaakov was like the passenger. I'm here because I've got a purpose. I want to get to Rome. I want to have a great vacation. And the purpose is the next world. So I'll do what I have to do to build that next world. Esav, on the other hand, was like the flight attendant. And it's not a perfect analogy, but it's about this is the world. This is it. My focus is on this world, and how do I maximize my experience here? Okay. Does anyone want to read number 3, please?
I'll read it if someone wants to.
Okay, thanks.
And when the days to give birth were filled, behold, twins were in her womb. And the first one came out red, all covered with hair like a garment, and they called his name Esav. And afterwards his brother came out, his hand holding the heel of Esav, and they called his name Yaakov. And the boys grew. And Esav was a man who knew hunting, a man of the plains. Yaakov was a pure man, dwelling in tents.
So all this is laden with symbolism. What does it mean that he was born complete?
Isn't there a medrash that he was already physically maturity signs like a beard?
There's an understanding that he was like a fully grown man when he was born. Now, what does that symbolize to you? When you hear of like, and I know.
Well, I think of growth, like a baby, they don't know anything, they need to grow, and they go through stages of growth. And if he's already there, then he doesn't have to, his potential.
Very connected to his soul.
On his potential, there's no room to grow.
It's true, because if you compare like human development to animal development, for example, right? Humans are born much earlier in the gestational developmental stage than animals are, right? Animals within a day or so, they're walking, they're independent. And adults, it's like what, 20, 25? And what's it symbolizing is that when Esav was complete, it's not just that he was physically complete, but he felt like he was a finished product. The concept of growth is not just a physical growth, right? When a human being reaches the age of 20 or 25, or whenever the brain stops developing, do they stop developing? No, right? And progress and achievement and accomplishment, hopefully, should apply the whole life long. But when it's saying that he was complete, it is symbolizing that not only was he physically complete, but his mindset was like, I'm good.
I'm done.
Right? I'm done. And maybe you do know someone like that, right? But there are people that have that kind of mentality that like,
I don't need to grow.
I'm good with where I am,
Yeah.
right? What was and the other thing that it says is it came out red, all covered with hair. Again, what does this mean? And I heard a really interesting story. So hopefully no one will take offense at this, but let's see what happens. Why do people wear fur coats? Expensive fur coats. Why do people wear them?
Many reasons. One is to keep warm.
Okay. Any other reasons?
Some people wear it as a status symbol.
Specifically, I think when we're talking about expensive fur coats, I think the primary reason is the status symbol. It's interesting that there's a cute story that I heard is that there was a person who bought an apartment and he started to renovate it. So he hired a contractor and he told the contractor, you know, this is the design I want. And halfway through the project, he notices that the contractor is doing different things. So he goes over to the contractor and he says, what's going on? So he says, well, this guy came and told me to do things a little bit differently. So he's like, who told you to do that? And he's like, this guy. And he finds out it's his neighbor. So he goes up to the neighbor and he's like, what do you mean? Right? I paid for it. It's my house. How dare you go and tell the contractor to change things around? He says, so the neighbor says, listen, you're doing it to put on a show, to be, you know, to show everyone else in the neighborhood like what your thing is. At least do it to my team. And again, it's a little bit of a smart story, right? But the idea there again is that the external doesn't necessarily match the internal. I'll put on a show. I'll put this, you know, when we go out and have a nice happy family.
Oh gosh, they have to raise our hands and to chime in.
Okay.
But there are people, they never even want to pursue any internal growth.
It's not on their radar. We see it, right? The whole like social media, right? What is it? We live in a culture where very much it's about you put on a show and does that mean that my life is necessarily like that? Not necessarily. No. This is what Esav was. Esav was about this world. His mindset was not about how do I grow and how do I become better and how do I make sure that my internal experience matches up to my external experience. It was about how do I maximize my enjoyment in this world, my experience in this world. Let's contrast it with Yaakov. What was Yaakov? Yaakov was a pure person, right? The Torah says he was a pure person dwelling in the tent. What it means here is that his internals matched his externals. So he was okay doing it in the tent, right? When someone is really sincere about something, then you don't need to do it for the public accolades and the honor, because you know what you're doing is the right thing. He was someone who understood that this world is a pathway to the next world. So the work in this world is not just to have a great experience, but it is to maximize my potential in this world. So that's the difference between Yaakov and Esav is they had a different mindset. So to wrap up that story, what the rabbi told this woman is he said the difference between going through the formal conversion process and not is the difference between whether you choose to upgrade and travel like a passenger or whether you want to continue traveling as a flight attendant, right? Flight attendant is here for the journey, whereas the passenger is there for the destination. A woman, when she did go through the conversion, she said, what I did is I chose to upgrade. I chose to upgrade and take on the mission of the Jews.
Confused.
In the analogy, the flight attendant is like the non-Jewish people. The primary experience, the primary concern is about the experience in this world. Whereas what Yaakov is and what Jewish people we are trained to be like, yes, this world is important. And we have to maximize our experience in this world. We have to treat other people well. But I'm here for a purpose, right? I'm here for a higher purpose than that. It's interesting. I gave this class on Monday morning. Someone said, well, hold on a second. Don't non-Jews have spirituality? And I'm like, absolutely. Esav had spirituality. He was renowned for the way he respected his his father. He had spirituality. But the spirituality was to enhance his world. Whereas what Jacob is here is, I'm here to fulfill God's mission for me. God's put me in this world for a purpose, and I'm here to fulfill that mission. So, who are we? Jacob and Esau. We're going to see it from Yaakov and Esav, and then it filters down into Jews versus non-Jews. It's choosing the higher mission of a Jew, right? Because a non-Jew also has a connection to God, but a Jew has the potential for a higher connection for God because we have so many more mitzvot, right? So when someone goes through the conversion process, the essence of what they're doing is they're saying, I want that mission. I want that extra responsibility. I want the challenges that come with it and the privileges that come with it. So that's the essence of what they're doing. But it also plays out within us, this conflict. Can anyone relate to that conflict? The conflict between this world and the world to come?
Gosh, yeah.
Materialism versus spirituality, right? Short-term pleasure versus sometimes I have to sacrifice that because I'm working towards a higher goal. I'm getting out of bed in the morning. You have to sacrifice, especially when it's cold. You're like, oh, it's warm and comfy, and you have to sacrifice.
Coming here tonight.
Coming here in the snow, exactly. You're sacrificing something in order for a higher goal.
This is a little confusing because there are many Jews who are born Jewish and don't always live the life of being a Jew. And then there are non-Jews, as you say, like have a relationship with God, and they may actually be a better person than some other people. So how do we measure that?
I love that question. Hold on to it, and we're going to get to it. Let's go back to it. Within us, and you don't have to answer if you're not comfortable within it. Like, who am I? Am I a Jacob or am I an Esau?
You have aspects of both.
Beautiful, right? Sit on the fence. We're both, right? we are both. Are we more Jacob or are we more Esau? I think it varies, right? Moment by moment, day by day, right? There are times where we're like, I'll do the right thing, and there are times that no, don't bother me with the right thing, right? Just leave me. I want to sit on my couch and press the snooze button, whatever it is, right? So that really, if you think about it, is the conflict of our life. The whole conflict of our life is, do I do what I want right now, or do I do what I know is right? Which one is stronger? Is Jacob stronger, but pulled to do the right thing, or is the Esau, the comfort?
It depends what day it is and what.
Esau also represent the Yetzer Hara and the ego versus Yaakov.
I think so. I like to call it a drive to be comfortable. That's the way I identify it with most. It's that drive to be comfortable. Don't wake me up and ask me to make you breakfast. I'm sleeping. Yaakov is about that discipline. I'm going to do the right thing, even if it costs me right now. Whereas Esav is more about, I just want to have fun, right? I just want to go out and have fun and hunt. I want to just enjoy the meal. And which one is stronger? So if you look at the text, which one is stronger?
I would say that the Esau one is probably stronger.
How do we know it? Again, the symbolism is there, is that who comes out first? Esau comes out first. And then Yaakov comes on like holding onto the heel of Esav. And if you think about it for a second, those two voices in our head, I kind of like to think of it as like the voice that says, I want that. And then that like quiet little voice says, you really should get out of bed and go for a walk. It's much quieter than the voice that's like, it's snowing outside. The Esau has the advantage. The pull to be comfortable, right, is much, much stronger. Now we're going to get to Nina's question. So here we have beautiful idea. Yaakov is this person of truth, this person of understanding that I'm here for a mission. I've got the discipline to go after that mission. And then you have this crazy story where Jacob and Esau have this falling out over the blessings. Where what's the story that happens is, does anyone want to read number 6, please?
And Rivka took the best clothes of Esau, her eldest son, and dressed her young son Yaakov with them. And Yitzhak said, "Come near, my son, please, and let me touch you, if you are really Esau or not." And Yaakov came near to his father Yitzhak, and he touched him. And he said, "The voice is the voice of Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Esau."
Okay, so let me give you the very short backstory. Backstory is Esav was born first, as we kind of see. He got the birthright. Many years later, Esav comes home from a day of hunting, starving, hungry. He walks in, smells this delicious soup that Yaakov is making, goes over to Yaakov and says, "I'm starving, give me that soup." And Yaakov says, "Sure, I'll give it to you in exchange that you give me the birthright." So they sold it. So now it kind of belongs to him. And yet, there's a deception that's going on here. Why did God have to make it that way? To make the question even stronger is that what was the blessings? What were the blessings all about? The blessings were all about materialism. Like you're going to be in this world. You're going to be successful. You're going to rule over your brother. You're going to be successful. So here's what's going on. Yitzhak is the father of Esav and Yaakov, and he thinks to himself that ideally, how should it work? Is you have Yaakov, who's focused on the spirituality, and you have Esav, who is focused on the physicality, and Esav is going to support Yaakov, right? So he can be involved in the world and then support him. So he wanted to give the blessings to Esav so that he would support it. Rivka grew up in a family of Lavan, who was a trickster and a con man, and he knew, and she recognized, she's like, hold a second, that's beautiful in an ideal world, but this isn't going to work. This isn't going to fly in the real world. So she intervenes and kind of says to Yaakov, "Why you go? I'll dress you up like Esav, and then your father will bless you." And what's fascinating about it is that the text actually says that when Yaakov, what happens is Yaakov goes in and Yitzhak recognizes there's a discrepancy here. He says, the voice is the voice of Yaakov, right? The voice is our internality. I recognize that your internal is like Yaakov. But the hands, the exterior is like Esav. What's going on? And he said, like, he didn't recognize him, didn't know who it is. He touches his hand, he recognizes that his externals are like Esau, and at that point, he gives him the blessing. We now understand a little bit of the psychology behind it, because he wanted his brother to support him, but like, why the deception? Why was the deception necessary? And I think this is going to go back to Nina's question, is that God wanted the blessings to come about in this way because it's an unconditional blessing. Jewish people, it doesn't matter how much externally you look like a non-Jew, you're still a Jew. And I'm going to share with you an incredible story. When we had the Second Temple, the Romans were trying to destroy the Second Temple. They was trying to fight against the Jews. And there was a Jewish person. His name was Yossi Meshiso, and he went into the temple. He took the menorah, right, one of the holiest items of the temple, and he went and he gave it to the Romans. If you can imagine, it's a massive act of treason, right? Really a huge betrayal. And the Romans were like thrilled. Great, here we have this Jew who's going to help us. So they said to him, "Go back and get us something else." And he says, "No." Even though he had done it once, he said, "No, I'm not going to." So they said, "You know what? We'll pay you." And there's something within him that says, "I've done it once, but I'm not doing it again." "We'll pay you a lot." "No, not doing it." They say, "If you don't do it, we'll kill you." And he's like, refuses. He absolutely refuses. Why? Because even though he was a Jew who betrayed the Jews, he still had that Jewish spark within him. And that's why the blessings came around in this underhand way, to show the Jewish people that you're a Jew. And you're not just a Jew when you behave like a Jew. You're always a Jew. Even when you're so far removed from Judaism, you could be so far removed, you could do nothing Jewish, you're still a Jew within it. And it's fascinating. I was talking to a friend about it, and my friend was saying that she has a friend who is not religious at all. And they were having a conversation about tattoos. My friend was like, "I am so against them. And I don't even understand why I'm so against it. And my other friend says to her, you know why you're against it? Because you're a Jew. Right? Even though you grew up and you're not nothing to do it, there are certain things that are within us, within our soul. So we have that mission. The blessings was given in this way because it doesn't matter. I mean, not that it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. Our externals matter, our actions matter, absolutely. But it doesn't negate the fact. It's not like you're Jewish if you keep Shabbat. You're Jewish if you are honest. You're Jewish if that, or you're Jewish if you look like a Jew, whatever it is. You're Jewish because of your soul, because your soul has accepted that mission. Your soul was given that mission. And no matter how far we go, we can always come back. Just like that story of Yossi kind of shows us, is that he did an awful, terrible thing. He betrayed the Jewish people. And even though there was something within him that was like, no, I can't do it anymore. Right? To sum it up, what does it mean to be a Jew?
To have a Jewish soul.
To have a Jewish soul, and that Jewish soul, to have a Jewish soul, and that Jewish soul has a mission, right? Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your feedback, and if you enjoyed this episode, you'll love my book, Living Beautifully: How to Bring Meaning, Joy, and Love into Your Life, based on the timeless wisdom of Pirkei Avot. And please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. Have a wonderful day.